And we're back. At least two of us.
Good.
Welcome, folks, to the Heroes World podcast, or the Sidekick show on a different day other than Monday. Welcome, Rob, over there. Rob Goddard here. You can follow his Twitter and IG there. I'm John Ho, 7 O's, no E. Stu Pay is indisposed at the moment. He hopes to be back with us very soon. We miss you, buddy. But yeah, we're going to talk about The Last of Us, this HBO juggernaut that everyone has been waiting for. Rob, you being a big fan of this, looking forward to this, big fan of the game. So let's quickly talk about let's just break it down in case someone doesn't know who The Last of Us is or what The Last of Us is or played The Last of Us. Rob, you got a quick breakdown for us?
I don't.
No? Oh, no. Is it long? Is it like an hour and 21 minutes approximately?
I have a breakdown of the I've got a breakdown. I give you a breakdown on a bit of the show and of the history of the game if you want, John, of course. First of all, thank you so much to everybody who's watching or listening after the fact. This is the Heroes World podcast. Started off as a quarantine podcast, and here we are. Was it 3 years later, right, John? Almost 3 years later, still doing it. So
it's been a minute. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us.
Yeah, and if you stumbled onto us, which happens more often than one would think, because we generally lie on the ground, people just trip over us. Do us a favor, hit the subscribe button and notification bell. John and I also host the Sidekick show every Monday night live, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So again, if you have stumbled upon this review, just so you know, we are not professionals. However, we do a couple different shows, and you can definitely catch us on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we're definitely lacking a little bit of profession. Is it professionality? Is that
no professionalism? See,
professionalism. Yeah, missing Stu. We lack a whole chunk of that.
Yeah,
so, Stu, we're waiting for you to come back. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a breakdown for those who don't know about The Last of Us. This is based on a 2013 video game of the same name. The Last of Us is a Sony PlayStation 3 exclusive game. So this is like 2013. We're at 10 years, John, which is nuts.
Yeah, we're at a whole PS5. We're like 2 generations after this PS3 now.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was developed by Naughty Dog Games, the creators of the Uncharted series, as well as the classic Sony PlayStation game Crash Bandicoot. Now, The Last of Us has been in one form of development or another for about the past 5 years. 2 film adaptations, John, were attempted, as well as an animated short film before Sony killed that off completely. So like back in 2019, HBO released a miniseries called Chernobyl. You may have seen it. I loved it. It's amazing. And that was overseen by Craig Mazin. Now, he was a huge fan of The Last of Us video game, having played it upwards of about 12 or 13 times, he said. And he helped Last of Us and Naughty Dog creator Neil Druckmann spearhead this property to what we have now, which is this television show that debuted just last week on HBO. Now, this is a 9-episode series, and it was filmed almost entirely in Alberta, Canada. And it's rumored that each episode is about $10 to $15 million. And is said to be the largest TV production in Canadian history. Like, John, do you remember back in like 91, The Flash TV series with John Wesley Shipp? That was $1 million an episode, and CBS were like, we are cutting it. We can't deal with this. Well, that was $1 million.
Crushed Velvet Flash suit, which was so pimp.
Right. And now we're dealing with a $10 or $15 million production. So there you go. Inflation's a bitch. So if you're wondering to yourself, hey, wait a minute. I swear to God, Craig Mazin said this was a 10-episode series back in 2021. You would not be incorrect. What they decided to do, though, is cut the first 2 episodes as one big premiere episode. So that's why it's a 9-episode series. Let's get into who it stars. Obviously, it's Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Now, these 2 former Game of Thrones actors were met with mixed reaction online. As much as the majority were okay with Pascal taking on the role of Joel, that same number were in complete defiance and anger over Bella Ramsey being cast as Ellie. But that doesn't seem to really matter too much, John, as the premiere episode was the second highest premiere in HBO history, only behind last year's Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. And that brought in, so Last of Us brought in 4.8 million eyeballs onto the screens on Sunday night. However, when you add in their on demand, the 2 days following, were just over 10 million total viewers for the premiere episode of The Last of Us. So we're here to discuss the first episode, which is called When You're Lost in the Darkness. We can get into a little bit of the history of the game if you want, John, but this is The Last of Us, episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. That was a great breakdown. And this first episode is, like Rob said, a double header, 120 something minutes and change. So you can definitely see where that could have been split into 2 episodes. But how do you feel first before we get into everything, Rob? How do you feel about the whole length of this first episode? Would you have rather 2 episodes? But would they just drop both of them at the same time? Probably.
Yeah, see, it's funny, right? Because I was trying to think like how and where they would have cut as like where the first episode would have ended.
Okay, yeah, let's save that for when we get into the review where we think it should.
I was like, and I think it probably would have been a pretty weak first episode if they cut it where I think they would have.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's okay the way it was. I was happy with the size of the episode. It's fun. For me, I'm like, oh man, I still want a full 10 episode series.
you feel cheated because you don't have that 10th episode on the listing there. Right. But yeah, I think it's a sword that cuts both ways, because some people have not watched it yet as of our recording of this, because they saw the length of the episode and they're like, I'm going to save it for later. So we'll see if that affects anything in the long run. But like Rob said, this is a juggernaut in the ratings and the reception of it so far. So quickly, Rob.
Yeah, buddy.
I haven't played this video game. I remember picking it up back in the day when it was super hot on PS3. And for some reason or another, I just never got to it.
Did you even open it? I bet you didn't.
I did. I opened it. I installed it. This is when, folks, you have to pop your disc in and wait for it to install. Maybe that's the reason why I didn't get to play it right away. But you have, I think we already know, you've played the video game, right?
Numerous times. Like I got it for the PS4. So I had the remastered version. Just so you know, John, this game has been remastered and re-released on all 3 systems. They just released a PS5 remastered version and at a full price, at a full $90 Canadian, just back in like November, I think. So this game, I've never seen another game. You know, you've seen games go from like the first to the second generation. It gets that remastered, but I've never seen a game get remastered twice for 2 different generation of systems. That's bananas to me.
The closest I have is Grand Theft Auto, the latest one. I followed it through its release and pretty much every single system update, and the newest, I guess, remastered. I don't know if it matches The Last of Us. Did you play all those remasters? I was trying to get my brother for the podcast, but he didn't watch the episode because it's 100 hour and 20 minutes. Right. But he's played every single relaunch of it. Have you played all of them, or just
no? So I didn't pick up. Yeah, I didn't pick up the PS5 version. I played the PS4 versions. That was the only one I had. I played that. I think I've 7 times, front to back, like just the first game.
That's a good chunk. That's a good chunk. Yeah, you definitely got your money's worth out of that game. You definitely can consider yourself a fan. And with that being said, Rob, what were your expectations going into something like this? Like, this is a video game adaptation. The environment for video games, and I think we're going to talk about it at the end of the episode. Typically not a good track record for adapting your favorite games into anything other than another video game. Even sometimes a sequel just falls flat on its face. I had expectations because it was attached to HBO, and HBO has a certain level of show. So I did have a higher expectation than if this was on like a regular network TV series, or if this was on Netflix. So slight disrespect to Netflix. I don't know if you want to say that or not. But Robin, what were your expectations going into this TV show?
Well, yeah. So like when they originally had announced it was going to be a movie a number of years ago, I was like, that's a huge movie, man. It's not going to do it justice. Like the part about the game that I think that draws everybody in is the storytelling, the connection you feel with these characters. And I don't know how you translate that successfully, this property, in a 2.5 hour movie. So when they announced then back in 2019, it was going to be an HBO show, I was really stoked because, again, HBO is known for the quality of shows, and have been just hitting out home runs as of late, the last few years, right? So I was exceptionally happy, and I was a really big fan of Chernobyl, right? Like, storytelling in that was so good. So knowing that the showrunner and creator of that was going to help spearhead this really boosted my confidence. Yeah. But I'm not going to lie, John. with, listen, I'm always a fanboy. I'm always like, rose-colored glasses. It's gonna be the best thing. And then next thing you know, you get, Wonder Woman 84. But so when they announced Pedro Pascal as Joel, I was like, okay,
coming hot off of Wonder Woman 84.
Right. I was like, come on. But then when they announced Bella Ramsey as Ellie, I think I'm not one to go online and just like shit on people, but I wasn't overly happy with the casting decision. And I think it's to do with the fact that you almost feel like Ellie as because I've played it so much and the second game, and you've watched her growth and progression as a character. It's really, I don't know if anybody that you could have put into that role would have satisfied our expectations, our being the gamers. So I was very trepidatious going into this episode of how it was going to be and how I was going to react to Bella Ramsey as Ellie.
Okay, so I think we'll have to we've kept it relatively spoiler free, folks. So I think we're both going to just out the gate probably say you have to watch this.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. You've seen the Rotten Tomatoes score. I don't know how high it is now. I think it's one of the highest rated whatever's. And everyone's going to be talking about this. So we do recommend you go watch it for yourself. So if you don't want any spoilers to happen, to pause this and come on right back after you catch the episode. Or if you played the video game, I don't know. Would you say the video game is going to tell you what's going to happen in the show, or you want to keep that for a little bit later? You want to talk about that later?
Well, I think that if you've played the video game, we'll talk about some of the similarities, but if you've played the video game and then you watch this show, you're going to see a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
If you want to I want to play the game first, then watch the show, go ahead, I guess. Yeah. But I think both will, based on what we've seen in this episode, both experiences, I'm calling it now, this 9-episode series will live side by side with the game in a shared experience that I think you can enjoy both just as equally. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're not saying watch or do anything beforehand. Just dive in. And if for some reason you're not convinced, just watch the rest of this review, and hopefully we'll convince you to watch this show. Spoilers be damned. If the project is good, it's good. A spoiler of a certain plot point is not going to really ruin your experience. So a lot of people get hung up on that and the clickbait articles and all that kind of stuff. So let's dive into our review then, Rob. I don't know if we want to break it down into certain parts or whatever. I
think we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the opening.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I guess there's two openings. Yeah. I'm talking about the shocking opening.
The shocking opening.
You know what? Let's the very first opening scene, John, that takes place in 1969 with the television studio. Yep. That old school interview. What did you think of that? Because that is actually not anywhere in the game. That was fleshed out for this show to give some backstory as to what causes.
I thought it was a great way to dump the idea of obviously you might watch this or you might watch the trailers and you might think, oh, they're just zombies, but this was a great way to drop that they're not. It's kind of like a spin on the idea of zombies, and this is it's like a Graham Norton type show or whatever where they're just having people talking. But I thought it was a great way to introduce everything and keep things rolling, because we're all familiar with those types of shows. This guy drops his concept, the other guys are kind of clowning around and going, yeah, it wouldn't be funny if this whatever happened, and then you see that it does happen. So not being part of the game, so something new for you when you fired up, you're like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, that's not part of the game whatsoever. The explanation of in that manner, it was. I thought that was just so well done, and it was better than having a screen crawl or having some guy, in the present day, explaining the history or what. I thought it added some gravitas to the idea, and I thought it set a tone. It set a very serious tone, because you see the host is trying to be playful with the two guests, and then all of a sudden the one guy is just being very, matter of fact and very frank about what could happen. And then when he says, sure, but what happens if the fungi can't live above a certain 94 degrees or whatever? And he goes, yeah, but what happens if the planet starts to heat up? And you're like, Oh, because that has happened.
yeah. They purposely put in like the awkward moment where where all the guys are kind of like, oh, this got too real.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing an interview, you're kind of goofing around, and then all of a sudden it gets too real. And you're like, oh my God, we better steer this into, we got to entertain people now.
Yeah, everybody was quiet, right?
Let's laugh and then move on to the next topic. So that was, I think you're right. That was extremely well done. Yeah. Let's go to overall visual appearance of the show then, I guess, unless you.
Well,
unless you
I think we should go to like that first. Like I think then you're going into present day, right? Sorry, no, it was 2003. Yeah. And you see, introduction to Joel, his daughter Sarah, and the neighbors and whatnot. Now, again, we're gonna spoil it, so just letting you guys know, this is a pretty big plot point. But if you've played the game, you'll understand what I'm going to go get into. As somebody who, when you're looking at the promotional material or this and that, even when you're playing the game, you're thinking, oh, it's about a father and daughter, trying to rescue each other, or the father taking care of the daughter. You very quickly realize that's not the case, because Joel, his daughter is killed by a U.S. soldier. And it's heartbreaking. And it's
crushing, man. I almost had to turn, like, it was so crushing, that moment, the emotions there, the way they played it, the entire setup, the setup of that character. And I kind of knew it was coming, because you're right. You see the promotional material and you're like, this is not the girl that he's rolling with. This is a different girl. So it's like, I think she's going to go away. So you're like, oh my God. And you're kind of prepared, but it hits like a ton of bricks, Rob.
Well, so this is the one area I was really wondering how they were going to, because you have to, like, as the gamer, right? You're Joel. So you're in Joel's POV, and you're holding your daughter as you're going through the, and you have the zombies or whatever you want to call them coming after you, and people are, rummaging and cars, and you're holding, and all of a sudden you approach, and a U.S. Army guy tells you to stop, and you're like, it's okay, she's hurt her ankle, and he's just like the show, he's talking to the guy, and all of a sudden, shots ring out, and then you drop your gun, and you realize that she's been, and you're trying to embrace her as she's dying. And as a gamer, it rocks you. Like, you don't expect that. I mean, the first time you're playing it, you're like, what the fuck, right? Like, what am I dealing with? So much so that my brother-in-law came over and I had him play the opening scene, and he's like, dude, why would you do that to me? Because it wrecked him, right?
Yeah. It's rough. I was speaking as a hashtag girl dad or whatever. It's rough, that scene. It's
yes,
crushing.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So then when I was very curious to find out how that was going to translate, and if I would get the same feels, and obviously a little bit different because I'm not controlling the character. I'm not that character in the game, but man, they did such a fantastic job. And I've spoken to friends of mine whose spouses have never played the game, and who are pissed. They saw that episode. They were so mad because they're like, what the hell? Like, it wrecked them. So hats off, man, because I think that they were able to replicate that feeling that you had in such a manner that it was just it really connects you to Joel and the other characters in a way that you probably weren't anticipating going in.
It's an like, they established that character. They didn't just kill off like a character that was kind of like they established her. She's taking care of this Joel character, to my understanding. I assume the mother is passed or not in the picture. And just all of a sudden, just stick that knife in and turn it. She's gone, and she was played perfectly. I think we'll talk a little bit more about casting later. But yeah, she was amazing. You 100% feel it, and that sets it's part of the tone of the show. Like, Rob, I don't know if what really hit for me for this show was it seems very possible, like us coming straight off of a 2-year plus pandemic. Right. A lot of the stuff in the show just seems very real. Like, this thing that, oh, you're infected, you go to this way, like the regulation of all the stuff, and then they create the currency, and everything all of a sudden becomes scarce. They can't get batteries and all kinds of stuff. So everything that in the storytelling of this, I don't know if you got the same feeling from the video game when you were playing the video game at the time. It feels very real, like everything going on. So you're really in it. It doesn't really take you out. Like, I don't know if you ever watched the DMZ that was
we reviewed it, John.
Yeah, DMZ. It didn't quite have that same feel. It felt a little fake. Obviously, there maybe is some type of a bit of a budget discrepancy, and maybe a tonality change. But I wasn't pulled in as much as this show.
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that there's a lot in this show. It's almost like being on an elastic band. You're being pulled and pushed in so many different directions, including a small scene that when you get into present day and there's a young child walking through the forest. Anyways, you find out that this person's infected, and like she's euthanized essentially, right? Because it's infected, and they can't risk having an infected individual within the confines of the camp. And it's a 6-year-old. Like they really tug at your heartstrings to lend the weight of what it is that you're dealing with in that world. And I've seen some people online try to make comparisons to The Walking Dead, and I don't think you can. I think this is a vastly different. It's a different tonality. And I'm not taking anything away from The Walking Dead, but I think that it's is separate from that, and I think it will be looked upon vastly differently, however long this series lasts. In comparison to The Walking Dead.
I like the subtle way that they did that when I want to say it's a boy, but it looks like a girl because of the long hair.
Yeah,
but not 100% sure unless we looked up the performer's name. But yeah, it's very subtle. Like they're walking in and you see the shoe, and then they do that whole sequence where they take the temperature and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna get your dessert and all that stuff," and they're like, "Oh, here's a needle. It's gonna hurt for a second." And then they cut to bodies being dumped, and then Pedro has to dump the body, and then you see the same shoe that they were showing in the beginning. Yeah, so they don't actually show. Thank God. Yeah, thank God they covered everything up because I don't know if I could have taken another child death in such a visceral manner. Like right. It was very well. And another subtle point was when he sells the drugs to the guard.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm gonna need that bag back, and it's just like a Ziploc bag. Like we're so spoiled now, we throw that stuff away. You eat your Cheerios from it, you dump it in the garbage, and then he's like, "Yo, I need that bag," and the guy has to take all the pills out and put it in like another container, and then he puts it
in his pocket. Yeah,
like little things. And then I did get to watch the episode a second time. There's I don't know if it's established in the game, but on the back of his truck, I think there's a sticker that says he's like a veteran or something.
Yeah,
Joel. Yeah. So like little subtle things that are like, okay, this is why this guy can kind of like handle himself, but we're not gonna beat you over the head with it.
Well, he's not a superhero either. I mean, listen, we've only seen episode 1, but he's a 56-year-old guy. Yeah. And he moves a bit like a 50. You can see, like, if you see the first few minutes comparative to like what he's like afterwards and how he's walking, is a difference, right? He's 56, 20 years later after the first opening moments, right? So, it's, hey, man, we all get old and he starts to fail us a little bit as we get older. So,
yeah. Good for him. He's pretty spry for a 56-year-old. I think. I don't know. I hope I can be as as movable as he is. Okay. Anything else you want to think about overall thoughts, Rob, or any other parts of the episode you really want to dive into? Do you want to dive into when they switch to the other character? So we've moved on from the Sarah character, and then they bring in the Ellie character, right? Which I'm not familiar with. I have zero attachment. I've become attached to the other girl. His original daughter, and now this other girl comes in who you upon original casting had doubts for, right? Or you didn't see it, you didn't see the vision or it happening the way you wanted it, I guess, or were thinking that it was gonna
it's the problem, right? We always fan cast, not even fan cast, we have a certain level of expectation, and all of a sudden they cast somebody and you're like, no, whatever, right? But again, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is that you become so attached to that character of Ellie. I think it'd be almost difficult to try to find somebody, because I think it's Ashley Johnson does the voice narration of Ellie, and she's just so fantastic, right? Like in the game, that you just can't help but like be enamored with this individual as a character. So, you're talking about Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Now, it's established in the first episode, which I was kind of surprised they did it so early. The idea is that Joel is asked by this group of, I don't know, they're not mercenaries, but like freedom fighters or whatever.
The Firefly,
to essentially escort or smuggle Ellie from the current camp that they're in to another base, and as a piece of property, essentially. But she's important, and it's established in this episode that she was bitten but didn't get infected. And she had been bitten, was it 20 days ago or whatever. And it establishes in the beginning of the episode that the infection turns fairly quickly, right? Like I think it shows you like a chart, depending on where you're bit is how quick your metamorphosis takes place. And it never happened to Ellie. So she's obviously has some type of an antibody that can help defeat whatever fungal infection is being is rampant in the world. And I was really surprised that they released that information within the early part of that episode. I thought that would be like a little bit later in the series, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But yes, you don't really get a lot of time with Ellie to kind of establish how Bella Ramsey does in the role. But from what I've seen, I was happy. I was impressed. But it's, again, unfortunately she's got some huge shoes to fill. No fault of her own. I think anybody in that role would have had the same mountain to climb.
Yeah. So I liked her, not as much as the original. I don't know if I want to call the original daughter or the first character they were introduced, but she has they have different storylines. The daughter is introduced as caring for her father, and then this character is introduced. I think her introduction is she's already locked up.
Yeah,
she's like a prisoner, and then she kind of has to be a little bit feisty. Who I guess survive. So we'll have to see.
She's a teenager, John.
Yeah.
We have daughters that are getting up in age in that area, and I think we're going to experience just how annoying they're going to be.
Typical teenager things is what people say.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you're going to need a little more time with her, but I think overall everyone performed greatly in this episode. I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about the cast, or did you have any more thoughts that we should talk about before we
on
the episode as the entire
the episode as entirety? Listen, man, I was just really happy with it. When I first watched it, admittedly, it was the Sunday. It was a long day. I've been up since 5 a.m. I fell asleep watching the episode, not because I was bored, just because I was literally dead ass tired. So I watched the entire thing on Monday evening, front to back, right? Started off and I loved it, and I rewatched it again since then. There are so many audio clues, certain things when Sarah at the beginning is looking through, they take so much from the game that it's cool little Easter eggs. The driving scene when he's driving with his brother and Sarah's in the back of the truck. Somebody actually put it online, scene for scene.
Yeah. So I saw a frame by frame comparison. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. It gave you enough to make you feel so familiar, but then because they added, you said, John, you started to become attached to Sarah as a character. You didn't really have that in the game. They really fleshed her role out. So it's there's enough there to be familiar and enough there to make it new. At any rate, I thought the set design was great looking, and it really sets his tone and his mood for what's coming this season. And when we saw that trailer for what's coming up this season or whatever, I'm giddy with anticipation. I cannot wait.
I was really intrigued by whatever that thing that's splattered onto the wall. That's on. I don't know if that's from the game or not, but I was really fast. I was like, damn, that's pretty scary. And then they kind of walk in, they're like, whoa. It's been there for a while. But just overall, everything about the show, it just it works. You can tell there's a lot of heart put into it. Everyone's performance really, really good. Let's talk a little bit about Pedro Pascal, who is, I saw an article or a meme somewhere posted that he's only ever been in TV shows that are 89% or higher.
Really?
So is he the king of TV? I guess they can't say everything because he was in that Wonder Woman 84. Unfortunate blemish to his record. But almost everything I've seen him in is pretty solid. Even though Mandalorian, all we get is a voice, right? And he did get to take off the helmet a little bit more in season 2. Yeah. But how do you feel about? I think you already said that you were okay with the casting. Basically, once it was announced, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, he looks the part, right? If you look at Joel, he looks it. I mean, it's
well, he's an army vet / contractor. You 100% believe that this guy can be all those things, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, and they
pretty
didn't
easy.
take any artistic liberties with like they didn't give him like a shaved head. And then he's got, you know, it sounds stupid, but it's like,
Mr. T Mohawk.
right. But like, you see these, when are always wearing a baseball hat. Like when you see adaptations of properties, and then all of a sudden the directors are showing us how to take like the original Judge Dredd movie, when all of a sudden still like Dredd's known for always keeping his helmet on, Stallone takes it off so you can see his face. Like like what are you doing? So like in this, I was just like, yeah, he has the same beard, he's got the same salt and pepper-ish type of hair, he looks the same, he's not cleaned up, like he's not, he looks like he does in the game, which looks like you're stuck in this really shitty time in human evolution, right? Like so I thought it was great, and I thought he did a fantastic job as Joel again, making it, stepping into a really big role that is very well known, and a lot of people, because when you're a gamer and you're playing that character, you become attached to it, and so to be able to make it your own but still make it feel familiar to those of us who are watching, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah. It's tough. We saw it already in Uncharted with Tom Holland, who we
Right,
we
that's a perfect
all
example.
yeah we all think is a great performer. He's very charismatic, very charming. But for
he's not
some
Nathan
reason,
Drake.
for some reason, it just did not work as Nathan Drake, and I don't think we're alone in that opinion.
No.
I don't know if I heard anybody say, "Man, I love Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. I hope he gets another movie to keep going." So we'll see what if we do get another Uncharted movie.
Yeah.
but who would you give like a MVP kind of like following in Pedro's shoes? I really liked the daughter character, whoever played Sarah. I think you said she's the daughter of 20 whatever the girl's name from Westworld.
Thandie Newton.
Yeah. You said you
from Westworld. Yeah, I mean, like, she's a spitting image of, I couldn't believe it.
I noticed it after on the second watch when you pointed it out. But I haven't watched, Rock and Roller or Westworld in like
Mission Impossible 2.
Mission Impossible 2, we're going to get to that in a second. But yeah, I hadn't watched it in a while. But yeah, on the second watch, there's moments where she's just making faces when they're in their apartment and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. I 100% see it there.
Yeah, I thought she did a great job. And again, she had an opportunity to play a character who is established in the game, but not as established as it was in this show. Yeah. So she really was able to take ownership of that.
I feel like her character almost stole that entire first half. She stole the first half of the episode.
No, I thought the grandmother stole the first half.
It's funny when they pan out and she's in the background and like kind of blurry, and then she just kind of like
and
then they cut away and you're like, wait a second, there's something going on there. Come back around. Yeah, I liked the guy who plays his, I don't know who the name of the guy who plays his brother. I think he's Tommy. Is his
Tommy
brother?
Is his brother.
Yeah. I thought he was really cool, and he like worked with the little that he had in that episode. Yeah. The moment that I really liked not really liked, but I really felt it was when the daughter is dying and he's like, oh, come help me, and just the look on his face, he's just like, no, she's gone, dude. Like that. Yeah. Like that was a really good. He didn't say anything. He just kind of like made a face. And welled up a little bit. Like I thought that was really great.
He just had Joel. Like he just
Joel. He just shook his head, Joel, and then like it's really cool. I'm kind of appreciating when these performers really kind of put emotion in without having to back it up with a lot of dialogue or exposition or something.
And I think dying on screen well is really tough. Yeah. Right. And I think that she did like a fantastic job. Like you really bought it. If there's a sense of, I don't know, it felt very real. Like watching that, right? And it added something to, as opposed to already, like the flip side is that, they could have turned and she could have been already dead and that's it. And you're like, oh my God. And there's the shock, but now you're going through the moment with Joel and you're watching his dog. Like, and you're just like, what? And she is,
that's why it's so crushing that you kind of basically see her fade away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if I'm going to be able to recover. Man. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover enough for the second episode. Like it's very crushing. Anybody else you want to shout out in the cast?
I thought Anna Torv, like our Anna Torv from Fringe. It was so good to see her back as I can't remember her name now. What was her name, John? She's the one hanging out with Joel.
Oh, I want to say Anne or something like that, or
No, now I'm gonna have to look it up because
Is she not in the video game? I assume she would be someone important in the video game.
She is. I've hit a mine Tess as Tess.
Okay.
And so yeah, and so it was really cool to see her in that role. I thought she did a fantastic job. I also thought that I don't remember
they beat her up too. Her first thing on camera is like she's all beat up. Like
yeah, man, she's like, yeah, she's not
you don't want to
good.
do that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Merle Dandridge played Marlene. It's really weird. Like if you look at the game, some of these actors look very similar to the characters in the game. You're like, whoa. So I thought she did a fantastic job as well. And there's a lot of really cool actors that are in this series that we haven't met yet. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them as we get further into the show.
Yeah. All right. So shout outs to the cast. They did a phenomenal job. So as we kind of wind it down, Rob, I do want to ask, like, so far, is this the best video game adaptation? Like
Sorry. Before we do, wait, John, you did really. Sorry, you said Tommy.
Yeah.
You know who that is, right? That was Gabriel Luna. That's Ghost Rider in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh yeah, I do. Now he's got the long hair. In Ghost Rider, he had like kind of like this crop, almost buzz cut style, right?
Yeah.
I didn't watch much Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I did try when Ghost Rider showed up because he's driving the Charger. And everybody's like, oh, now it's so good. But I don't know. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you can try to sell me on that a million times. It didn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout outs to him. I thought he was great. But is this the best video game adaptation? I'm trying to speak too fast. We had previously crowned Mortal Kombat jokingly as one of the best video game adaptations.
The 1996 version or 5 version we should.
Yeah. The original one, jokingly, I think maybe it probably should rightly go to Sonic before this came out.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe Sonic, or I don't know if we start counting things that are maybe animated or whatever. But is this the best adaptation of a video game? You've noted many points have been brought over. Some people have noted gameplay elements were kind of incorporated in the story, like scarcity of supplies and other things like that. What more do you want from a video game adaptation? You've seen frame by frame.
I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be. I want it to be familiar, but not cheesy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want it to be like Doom. Like right from, like, I don't need to see the Rock's hands, loading the BFG, and then all of a sudden, like, in first person view, go like, I don't need that. But I don't know. Like, listen, obviously my initial instinct to say, of course, it's the best video game adaptation. We haven't gotten to the first full season yet, so it could fall off the rails. I highly doubt it will. Based on what we saw, yes, I think it is. The problem is that I don't as video games have evolved into more storytelling elements, they're taking a lot from movies and television dramas to be able to create the stories. It's not really a fair comparison to, like, say, Sonic, right? Where you're just running around and you're doing stuff, or right?
Well,
like,
so maybe there might be categories, like if a Pac-Man game comes out, you're like, well, if a Tetris movie comes out, there's a certain level of expectation associated with that, but for these more modern games like an Uncharted,
but I would definitely say, like, you go with Tomb Raider, a good example, right? Like,
the new Tomb Raider,
more modern stuff, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, Doom, if you want to go, like, anything like that, for sure. As a modern game within the last 10 to 15 years, this is so far way above what we've
me having not even played the game, it's a a 10 out of 10 show for me so far. So I think that, and I don't even have a video game component to compare it to right now. Right. So it's already that high of a level when it comes to that. So right now we're gonna call it, but we're gonna put a pin into it until the season wraps up and see if things kind of dissuade. Along those lines, Rob, I did want to ask, can Super Mario Bros. Take the crown? Could it like, so right now I'm pretty sure unanimously this is considered the Rotten Tomatoes score, everything. This is going to be considered the best video game, whatever you want to call it. Can Super Mario possibly beat this?
Yeah, I think it can. And I'll just because I think that Mario is just one of those indelible characters that just defies generation. Things been around for 30 plus years, and people love Mario no matter what age you are. We started off with the original Super Mario Brothers game on the NES, and people our age are still playing Mario. I was playing Mario Odyssey when it came out on the Switch a few years ago. So, like, Yeah, people were just attracted to that character in that world in that game, unless the movie is reminiscent of the John Leguizamo Super Mario Brothers movie.
I wonder if they're gonna have a callback or a shout.
Yeah, I think that people will really love that Super Mario Brothers, and I think that they'll say it's one of the best. I don't think though that you can compare the two. This is very much an adult television show dealing with adult things, much like the game. It's hard to how do you compare the Last of Us video game to Super Mario Brothers video game? I don't think you can't.
Yeah.
So,
but you wouldn't have thought you could compare, say, Mortal Kombat to a Last of Us, right? But the Mortal Kombat showed some promise. Remember that first scene they showed us with the Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and we're like, "Oh man, this is gonna be awesome!" And then they pulled that out from under us pretty quickly. But something on that level could be done for a seemingly silly video game, right? So,
yeah. So, listen, if Mario Brothers, the movie, which comes out in the next couple of months, I think, right? Yeah. If it does well, then video game lovers we can rejoice collectively. Whether you're a fan of The Last of Us or Mario Brothers, you can each say, "Hey, this is the best adaptation of the game," or whatever. So hopefully they do well. But I think for me, I will probably really enjoy this series a bit more than I will the movie. And I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. Hopefully it does well, but. I think from my personal likes and interests and where I am as a 40 individual, The Last of Us is going to be my bag, baby.
Yeah. No, I think it hits the mark, especially some of us. I guess we'll say veteran gamers. It would be the nice way to say it.
Right, yeah.
Last question, Rob. If people watch the show or this first episode and we're like, "Oh, this is amazing." Should they go pick up the video game and should they play a couple levels until they get to an equivalent story point? Obviously, we don't know what happens in the next episodes, but right now you're flying off the hype of this episode, and you've got when does the new one air? Friday or Sunday?
Sundays.
No, I think you've got a whole week to burn. You think you gotta wait?
Yeah, I think you got a week. I think listen, you might as well wait. You have 8 weeks. You got 2 months. Yeah. Go ahead and pick up that video game in March, and then play through it throughout the wet, rainy spring that I'm sure we're probably going to be having, and enjoy it that way. There's a lot of richness in the game that you will enjoy, but I think you might do yourself a confusing disservice if you're trying to do both at the exact same time.
Yeah, I just feel like some people are going to be so hype after watching the episode. This first episode, they're gonna be like, "Yo, I need more. give me more." Yeah,
you know what? This is better than last year's Halo on Paramount Plus.
Oh my goodness, it's so bad.
In my head, I feel like I'm forgetting one. Oh right, Halo came out roughly this time.
Is it from 2022? Is Halo considered from 2022?
Yeah, it was March.
Yeah. Okay, so this show is so bad and poorly done that we have basically erased it from our minds. We're supposed to do an episode of best and worst of 2022, and one of the points was most disappointing whatever. That didn't even occur to me. It's been so wiped, but now that you mention it 100% has to make that list. Yeah. What a disaster that show was.
Right,
it looked nice at certain points, but yeah. So if that's its competition in TV world, oh man, this annihilates it.
Yeah,
annihilates it. Stake to the heart, nail in the coffin, whatever phrase you want to use.
You gotta wonder if like the showrunners or people at Paramount Plus are watch this episode and like, oh,
yeah. Well, we kind of effed up here. We kind of effed up. Thank God there's so much other new stuff on your Paramount Plus subscription that it doesn't have to rely on the success
justify your $10
of Halo. Yeah, I feel bad for you guys that subscribe to Paramount Plus. But Rob, thank you very much for talking about Last of Us with me. We'll have to get Stu.
Wait, are you going to play the game? Once this is done, will you then fire up the game and play it?
I think I'm at least gonna fire it up and see if it hooks me. Enough of the show caught me, and yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Maybe I'll start playing it." So maybe I'll dust off my original copy so that I can fly through all these remixed copies after.
Well, you know what? Like the one thing is that the nice thing, I think, even if you're a PS5 owner, if you don't want to get the remastered, you can still play the PS4 one. It's always on sale for like
So you might as well put it on your wish list right now. And when it goes on sale one of these days before the end of the season, buy it, and then you'll have it on deck for when you wrap up episode 9. of The Last of Us on HBO.
Yeah.
So 100%, yeah, I would sign up for a subscription for Crave or HBO Max if you don't have one, just to watch this show. I think it's definitely worth it. Do you want to give this a number rating, I guess, out of 10, Rob?
Oh yeah, I'm giving it like a 9.5.
9.5. You still won't give it a perfect score? What do you dock it for? What was a nitpick then?
I still have to determine how I feel about Bella Ramsey as Ellie.
Yeah, so you need a little more screen time with her.
Yeah.
The only thing I had issue with was the 20-year jump. I feel like Pedro Pascal didn't look like he aged 20 years. I was like, it feels like it's not.
Oh, I think he did. He had really dark black hair, and then all of a sudden he had very white, silvery hair.
I don't know. I feel like it still didn't feel like 20 years. I feel like he would have looked a lot more rougher.
Hey, man, look at me from 20 years ago. I'm telling you, you wouldn't notice that big of a difference.
Aces. All right. Rob, where can they find more of this nonsense if they want to tune in for the Heroes World podcast?
Yeah, so if you stumbled on this review and you've made it this far at 45 minutes in, hey, thanks. You can definitely check out John and I on Monday night, every Monday night live, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Do the notification bell and we'll be live. And we talk about the Sidekick Show, tons of stuff. We talk about what's new in movies and TV news. This is part of the Heroes World is a comic book shop out in Markham, and John will give you the details, but he'll tell you what's new in the store every week. And then we're going to talk about a topic of the week. And this coming Monday, we are going to do a rundown of the things that we are excited for 2023. Obviously, this would have been on the list, so we'll remove that. But what are John and I looking forward to for this year in both movies and television? So we're going to go through that and a whole bunch more. And we also just kicked off Mission Mondays, where we're reviewing a Mission Impossible movie the first Monday of every month as we lead into Dead Reckoning Part 1 in July. So you can go back and watch last week's episode. We started off last week with Mission Impossible 1. And then on February the 6th, I believe, is the Monday, John, we will be doing Mission Impossible 2. So if you have an opportunity to check out the movie, stream it. You can find it. If you own it, great. Watch it and then join John and I as we talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But this Monday, it's all about 2023, baby. Why don't you join us in the chat and let us know what it is that you're looking forward to this year.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And as Rob mentioned, we do have a physical location. We are repping Heroes World, 8601 Warden Avenue in Markham, Ontario. Tons and tons of stuff for you to check out. Lots of toys. We do have a set of the NECA Last of Us action figures. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of merchandise coming out for this show, probably pop vinyls. Because you pop vinyl everything. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you as always, everybody, for tuning in and sharing. We look forward to Stu coming back and us doing our 2022 wrap up. And now we remember that Halo is going to be on the bottom of the list of trash shows that came out.
I'm willing to bet dollars and donuts that you will probably forget about Halo by tomorrow.
I'm probably going to also forget about it. That's how trash that show is. But Last of Us, we are definitely going to be looking forward to the rest of it. Let us know in the comments, folks, what you thought of this episode 1 and how you think it compares to the video game. If you're looking forward to the rest of the episodes, if for some reason you didn't like it, I'm very curious as to the people that disliked this show, and that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. It might be wrong, but everyone has their own opinion. All right, peace out. Thank you again, Mr. Rob.
Thanks, buddy.
See you guys on the next one.
Bye, everybody.